Hi guys, and welcome to another quick review. So this one will be about a weight distribution of S1000RR model year 2018. This is my bike, and you could probably see if you watched my previous videos this bike many times already in those videos and the mods I did. So for weight distribution, the most important things are how lighter the bike is comparing to stock and what geometry changes I made. So the significant weight saving on this bike is the Akrapovic GP end can and so-called HP titanium exhaust system, as you can see here. It's also made by Akrapovic and sold by BMW as an option part. And there is a programming for that available as well from the BMW. So when you swap the exhaust to the titanium one, you need to reprogram your bike to work correctly with a new system. And BMW can do it for you, your local dealer. Another change on the bike I have, I used 200/55 rear tire, and the bike again reprogrammed for that. So this bike also has a DDC system on it. And so let's go through the rest of the mods. So first of all, geometry, right? So in the front I have a fork push down through the top triple clamp, so the cutout which you could see here on the cap is flush with the top triple clamp. So all the preload is out at the moment. And what I did as well, I noticed that this bike is not extending the front completely when all the preload is out. When the wheel is hanging in the air, you can still push the wheel down, which could have meant two things, like two harsh and hard top out springs, or maybe there is not enough air in the forks. So what I did, I added all the preload, loosened all the bolts on the top triple clamp and the clip-ons on both sides. I kind of disconnected this line, like all the way down there, removed it, pulled it up so I could unscrew the left cap as well. So with all the preload added and the wheel pushed down, I first unscrewed the right cap and then put it back in. And then I did the same with the left cap, and then rerouted the cable, obviously. So that allowed more air to get in, and after that, even though all the preload is out at the moment, I get full extension in the front, and so also on the hard braking the bike is not diving as much as before. So it basically means that there was not enough air, so at some point in the fork there was pressure below atmospheric for the travel. So now that is fixed, and this is very important because the bike sits higher right now than before. So my sack in the front is 35 millimeters at the moment with all the preload out. My sack in the rear is 30 millimeters with all the preload out. So geometry in the rear, geometry changes in the rear. So as you can see, my axle is in a position the same as in the model year 2012 to 2014, and as on the HP4 model years 2013-14. That was achieved by replacing the chain, stock chain, which is 120 links on this bike, by 118 links chain. This is DID ZVMX, very good chain, I can recommend that. So that moved rear axle to the front by 16 millimeters, by one length of chain link. So another mod here I have, as you can see, black bolts here and here, except for the bottom shock bolt. The rest of the bolts on this bike are replaced by the Alpha Racing high precision bolts, including that one over there. You won't see it, but it's right there in the hole, which holds this linkage. So that what that does, because we are built to much more precise tolerances, it saves a lot of dead travel in the suspension, which you could find if you loosen those bolts. You would be able to move the swing arm up and down almost by 10 millimeters on this bike. So I replaced all of those when I tightened all the bolts when there was a positive load applied, so the swing arm was pushed up, and so it sits now in a position which requires, for the right geometry, that top shock mount eccentric to be in a hole up position, and also this is eccentric from model year 2012. so it has a higher offset comparing to 2015-2018 bikes. So this is a 2.5 millimeter offset eccentric, and this bike from stock has 1.5 millimeter eccentric. And again, because of a change in the wheelbase and change of all suspension bolts, which raise the rear actually when you swap to these bolts, I had to use that eccentric to get the right swing arm angle for myself. And I have all the adjustment to move it down, actually, to increase the swing arm angle now, if I need to. Right, so these are the changes in geometry. Now let's go down to the measurements actually. So for the measurements I used the level surface, and I put two identical scales on it. So, and for every second measurement I was changing the scales, which used to be in for the front wheel, now will go to the back wheel, and vice versa. So, and that I did to actually compensate for any like deviances in the scales themselves. And this is the measurements I got. So this is the front wheel, 4 measurements for front wheel and 4 measurements for the rear wheel. And bike was sitting on these scales front and rear at the same time. Right? So you can see there is a little deviation when, so basically this is the same position of the scales, this is the same position of the scales. So 107.8, 107.4. So these deviances are created by actually like not 100% exactly the same position of the wheels on the scales. And plus swapping the scales, you see there is a significant difference between the measurements. So I did the average for front and for the rear. So 106.4 kilograms, all in kilograms for front, and 98.8 for the rear, which gives a total weight of a bike, and the fuel is approximately like 3/4 of a fuel tank at the moment, as 205.2 kilograms. The weight distribution for a bike sitting on its own weight on the scales, 52% for the front and 48% for the rear, which is close to perfect weight distribution, I guess, for a sports bike, or actually that may be the perfect distribution. And when I try to do a measurement with myself on the bike, again swapping the scales between the first and second measurements, and of course in this case I couldn't completely free myself from touching the ground, so I was supporting myself with my legs just a little bit and lean my body forward, as in like going on a straight line, racing position. So weight distribution I got in this case is 49% for the front and 51% for the rear. So the total error in the weight, so if I measure my own weight on the scales, I'm at 80 kilograms approximately, so it should be about like 4 or 5 kilograms more, but probably this is went through my legs into the ground while supporting myself. So this measurement is not like 100% precise, but it's close to that. Still, distribution 49 to 51 is quite good, I think. And I can easily change that to 50-50 by lowering the front a little bit or raising the rear just a little bit, which I can both do easily. But I need to ride this more, try it on the track and see how this goes. But this is very close to perfect. Also, what these numbers tell, that with a stock configuration of this motorcycle, when it has a long wheelbase with a 120 links chain, especially with a 200 by 55 rear tire, there will be not enough weight in the rear tire, definitely, because all the weight will be shifted more to the front. Also taking into account stock fork position and insufficient like air pressure within the forks, that would create even more weight in the front wheel. And that definitely showed when I was riding this bike, and this is why I did all these changes to a motorcycle. But obviously this is a measurements, and now I think while riding it, so I need to try that and see and reevaluate how it goes. Maybe it will like to be a bit lower in the front or something, we shall see. But I guess the current configuration gives quite nice geometry as well. And as you can see, I'm using the higher rear seat, which is a comfort seat from BMW. I bought it not so much for the comfort, but just to allow for more legroom. my legs are quite long. I'm 6 feet tall, and the bend in knee was too much for me on this bike for some reason in 2012. I didn't feel that. Maybe I was younger at that time, but anyway. So yeah, higher seat, and because the seat is higher, it's actually pushing more weight to the front as well for your arms. So yeah, that's another kind of important bit to understand. So yeah, so I guess this is what I achieved, and I can confirm what the stock geometry is definitely wrong on this bike, as it comes from a factory with a long wheelbase, insufficient air and lower fork position. So we shall see how it rides, and I'll probably create another review when I can provide any more information. But this was quite an interesting exercise, I guess. And the measurements showed what the bike on its own weight is definitely where it needs to be. So thanks a lot for watching this, and have a nice whatever time of the day you have, and bye bye.